This is a horror show with no particular niche, baby. It's always about hanging at the end of a meat hook in a tetanus-tainted tool shed. Maybe we'll scream about some stuff. Maybe we'll learn to fear new things. But it's always about hanging out, me and... Who's that knocking at the door? Open up and nobody's there. Call out somebody's name. I think I'm getting scared. Welcome to this horrific episode of That Thing with James, a podcast about nothing in particular. I'm your ghoulish host, James. And today, I have some spooky stories lined up from internet users like you and me. And we will read them, and we will scream in terror. But first, I hear kids screaming outside. I hear disembodied voices of children screaming and shouting and singing, la 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 la. I don't know if you can hear them on the mic, but I can hear them, and it's causing me to feel a bit scared. So give me just a second. Hopefully these disembodied kids' voices will shut the hell up, because they tend to start as soon as I hit record these days. Just a second. Oi! Now, before we get into these stories, let's take care of some quick business. Hi, welcome to the show. If you're new, welcome for the first time. If you're not new, you know what's up. Like I say in the intro, this show's about nothing in particular, just whatever I feel like talking about. And it is the season for my favorite holiday, Halloween. So yeah, I've got some stories pulled up, some spooky stories from Reddit users. And before we get to that, though, I want to invite you to support the show by becoming a patron at patreon.com/ThatThingWithJames. There you can get access to over 120 bonus episodes of this show. Yes, bonus episodes at patreon.com/ThatThingWithJames. I have no commercials on this show, no corporate contributors, only contributions from patrons like those of you who are already patrons. Thank you so much. You rock. And if you want more of this thing, there's a lot of it, and you can get it at patreon.com/ThatThingWithJames. Yes, I also have a show email and socials and show subreddit. Those things are written in the episode description if you want to check those out. Also, audio-only listeners, in case you didn't know, this show is also on YouTube. Just go to that website and in the search bar type That Thing with James. My channel will pop up, and there you can see my lovely visage, and in this episode, my lovely frilly shirt with old blood stains on it. I'm not going to say if it's real blood or fake. I'll leave that up to your imagination. But this shirt cost me $90 from a store that unfortunately no longer exists. Thanks a lot. Corporate takeover in the middle of COVID. And the very first Halloween I wore this shirt, I got a little bit of possibly real, possibly fake blood on it. And from that night, like the next morning, I tried to get the blood out and it just wouldn't come out. And yeah, I know, I've done all the tricks. I used to work in a wardrobe department. I know what I'm doing. None of the tricks worked. So this shirt is just set with blood. And frankly, I think I pull it off better than Jerry Seinfeld, the frilly shirt. I've got a physical type and perhaps a personality that lends itself towards, pirate-like clothing, or better yet, a vampirate. I saw something recently about how to keep fake vampire teeth on. I haven't done it yet. I'm going to do it for Halloween. I thought about doing it for this episode, but things, time, whatever. I didn't get around to trying it out for this. But it's just those individual fangs you put over your canines. And usually these things come with like a thermal plastic that you melt and stick on and try to get it to mold to your tooth. I've done this before. It didn't work out so well for me. But recently I discovered some videos of people showing their alternative to that because they had similar experiences. In short, denture glue. Easy for me to say. In short, denture glue. Just put a little dot inside your individual fake vampire fang. Brush your teeth very well, dry the tooth as much as possible, and then press the fang on and wait for the glue to set. Now, it's not going to be permanently stuck to your teeth. The stuff's made to come off. Theoretically. Again, I've not done this yet, but I'm going to do it. Oh, yes, I'm going to do it. And I have a feeling it's going to work out better than the thermal plastic stuff. But yes, it's Halloween season. Are you going to dress up? Do you have a costume in mind? Let me know. If you're watching this on YouTube, write it in the comments and tell us what spooky costumes, or not so spooky. Are you dressing up like a minion? Are you going to be a sexy minion for Halloween? What are your plans? What are you going to do? I want to know. Inquiring minds ask. Yes. Okay, that's all I got for the intro. Let me pull up some stories and we will get into it. Just a second. Okay, the first story. So I mentioned it once already, but again, I've sourced these stories from Reddit to find some spooky situations shared from other internet users. And here's the first one, posted 5 months ago. This person says, lived in my grandmother's house immediately after she passed, invited friends down to play Dreamcast and have a few beers, set expectations early on that the only room they were allowed in, besides the kitchen and the living room, was the bathroom, just up the stairs. Was playing UFC on Dreamcast when I saw someone walk from my grandmother's art room to the bathroom. Was less a shadow and more like a dark gray silhouette. Paused the game, looked around, did a quick head count, and went back to playing the game. Around 10 minutes later, I saw the same figure walk from the bathroom to my grandmother's art room. Saw a few people look up the stairs, paused the game, and asked them to describe what they saw. They said they saw someone walk from my bathroom to the room just off the hallway. Looked around, did another head count, same number of people, and I just said, must be my grandmother. People were like, your grandma is cool with us partying in her house, right? To which I replied, oh, well, she died 3 weeks ago, so I don't think she's going to care too much. That freaked a lot of people out, and a few folks left, but I never felt weirded out or anxious about it. Would occasionally see her silhouette after that. Would talk out loud about my day when I'd come home from work, and just lived my life until I moved out a while later. In the moment, though, I was thinking, What the fuck is in my house? Person was walking around like they were familiar with the place, and outside of gatherings, we didn't allow people in our homes. Interesting. A silhouette walking by. I bet it was the grandma. And since this person didn't feel freaked out by this whole situation or by its presence, I think it was definitely the grandma. And perhaps not so much it was like the unsettled, not yet departed spirit of the grandma, but perhaps, I forget there's a word for it, this theory, perhaps a hypothesis that surrounding just buildings and stone, especially limestone, records energy of things that go on around it, and it will play it back like a recording. So perhaps it was rather common for OP's grandma to go from her art room to the bathroom for 10 minutes, probably taking a dump, and then going back to her art room. Hopefully after washing her hands. That would be the real horror story, if she didn't wash her hands post-poo. But I feel like this was definitely the grandma, and probably the surroundings playing back the thing that happened so often. It's like environmental recording theory, something like that. I first heard about this when I was touring a old women/children's prison in Dublin, Ireland. The tour guide told us about this, saying the place was extremely haunted, that the building was made of limestone, and that limestone, because it's very porous, records events and may play them back. That's where I first heard the theory. That I was about 15 then, so early 2000s. Next story. Also from 5 months ago. This is on the same thread. Oh my God. From username Unsung Scrotum. Yes, Unsung Scrotum says, generally, when I stay in a hotel for work, I sleep on top of the covers because I'm overly warm. Woke up at 1 a.m. to feel something gnawing on my thigh. Not a small bite. It was something with a large mouth, around human-sized. Switched the light on in a panic, and there was nothing there. Spent the rest of the night under the covers shitting myself, and found a human-sized bite mark on my thigh in the shower as I was getting ready for work. What? Recently, I stayed in a hotel in Belfast, the Europa, and woke up when the room door opened and someone came into the room and sat on the bed against my back. I couldn't move to roll over and see who or what it was for a long time until I convinced myself that I could actually move if I wanted to. When I turned round and put the light on, there was obviously no one there, but the bed had a depression in the duvet where someone had been sitting. Both incidents freaked me out for days afterwards, but I can't find a rational explanation for either of them. So, perhaps this person has an attachment. Some unsettled spirit entity or something has attached itself to OP here and keeps biting them and sitting, pressing against them. Who or what could it be? Or could it possibly be that there's a stalker following this person from hotel to hotel, finding out when they go on business trips, letting themselves into the room, and OP is so scared and traumatized that they're not really remembering that there was a human in their room biting their thigh, sitting, leaning against them in their sleep. Perhaps they did indeed wake up to see someone. Perhaps there was someone there, and they couldn't bring themselves to move, so frozen with fear, they could only move after the stalker had disappeared. What is the truth? I feel that would be even more terrifying than perhaps a unsettled spiritual attachment. Let's read some comments on this one. I'm curious what people have to say. This comment says, "Since my childhood, I have had the same sensation, someone standing on my bed or walking on it. I used to have more of it when I was a child. It was not an adult person weight, but more like a small child. I also have a similar one, thinking it as my long deceased cat. It is smaller, but I sensed the same pressure from its paws on my bed, sometimes sitting on my free hand as he used to do, but it was faint and colder." Ooh, here's another comment says, "Europa Hotel in Belfast, I believe, is the most bombed hotel in Europe. Scary to hear your story, as I lived 15 minutes away from it, but have never stayed." To which someone replies, "It is a nice hotel, and I think it was the most bombed hotel in the world at one point. But yeah, I still get the heebie-jeebies whenever I book to stay there. Luckily, I've only experienced it the once there, though." I'm looking this up. Europa Hotel, Belfast. Is this true? Okay, it's bigger than I expected. Bombing history. Wow, Europa Hotel bombed 33 times between 1971 and 1994. So during the Troubles. Wow, that hotel was bombed a whole lot. All right, we got another comment on the story. "Please tell me this is fake or I am not sleeping tonight." To which Unsung Scrotum replies, "Absolutely true. I'm afraid." Someone else says, "Did you get the sense this phantom nibbler was trying to eat or seduce you?" Yeah. Let me pause for a second to try to get these kids to stop screaming, and we will get on with some more spooky stories. Be right back. Okay, these kids are not toning it down, and what the fuck are their parents doing? They're out here screaming, "Shut the fuck up!" I mean, these are like 7-year-old kids. And yeah, I would scream, "Shut the fuck up," but not in front of my parents. I did it once, actually, and I didn't even say fuck. I said freak up, shut the freak, what the freak? I got in so much fucking trouble. What the hell are these kids' parents doing? Not parenting, apparently. So, hopefully you can't hear the kids screaming in the background. If you can, then be very afraid, because kids are creepy. Okay, next story. This one is from Just Another Gringo. Growing up in Topeka, Kansas, my little brother had an imaginary friend named Jonakin. I remember vividly that my brother would get into trouble for playing in the creek, Soldier's Creek it was called, behind our house, and he always blamed it on Jonakin, saying he asked my brother to go swimming with him. Weird. My parents, of course, were insistent that Jonakin wasn't real, and eventually my brother quit seeing him. About 5 or 6 years later, I was taking a journalism class in high school, and we were taking a field trip to the local newspaper, the Topeka Capital Journal. We were given an assignment to search the archives of the newspaper to find an article that was relevant to us personally. I searched my family name and nothing came up. Then I searched for my address. There was an article about a boy that died in Soldiers Creek near 29th and Girard, where my house was located. And the boy's name? Jonathan Akins. Jonakin? When did this kid die? Ooh, okay, that's the relevant question. Someone asked, how long before? OP replied, the newspaper article was from June of 1984, and my brother was born in 1991. Oh shit, that creek is haunted by Jonathan Akins. Oh, dude. Now that's a good story. Oh my God. That was actually, I like that one. I got to read that a little bit again. Would get in trouble for playing in the creek, blamed it on Jonakin, saying he asked my brother to go swimming with him. My parents, of course, were insistent that Jonakin wasn't real. So what is the creek? I mean, it's a creek, but some creeks are little pibbling, little tiny streams, and then there's creeks that are a little bit bigger. How deep was this creek? Are there like a lot of snakes, cottonmouths, water moccasins, what have you? Is there something dangerous about this creek? Did Jonathan Akins die because of the creek? And was Jonathan trying to kill just another gringo's brother? Or did he just want someone to play with? Interesting. Okay, next story. My cousin and I lived in a house built during the Civil War where about 100 yards away, the guy, wife, and his daughter were all buried. It was fenced in so cows didn't stomp up the stones or anything. Well, the grass was getting pretty tall, and him and I jumped the fence to weed eat and wash the stones out of respect for them. We felt like we were getting stung, so we hopped the fence and ran back to the house as we thought there were mud daubers or something chasing us. After the all clear, I checked out his back. Oh shit. We both had scratches spanning our backs. Not enough to break skin, but enough for us to fuck off from that area. Also, footsteps running across the hall, and the feeling of being watched wasn't pleasant, but that story was the only physical proof we had. The house is on Old 3L Highway in Falmouth, Kentucky. Interesting. Now, I'm certain I've shared this story at least once before on this show. I used to live in a 80 to 100-year-old house in central New Jersey when I was a kid. So about from like ages 6 to 10. And I had a room that was right at the top landing for the staircase, just a small old two-story house. And the stairs didn't just go straight up one way. They went up one way, you get to a small landing, and then in the opposite direction, you've got another set of stairs to reach the top landing for the second floor. And so, yeah, my bedroom door was facing, that landing. Basically, you walk up the stairs, and if you turn right, you're facing my bedroom door back then. And I would often wake up at 4 a.m. on the dot, like frequently. And then there were some nights where I would also wake up at 2 a.m. frequently, like on the dot, both. The one I remember most was 4 a.m., but it was always on the dot. I would wake up and I would hear not footsteps, but creaking of the wood, because old house, old wood floors, and it had been kept up, but it's not like the wood had been replaced or anything, just cared for. And as you live in an old house, you become familiar with the sounds of of an old house, especially. You know the difference between expansion, like thermal expansion and contraction, creaking from wind, changes from humidity. You are familiar with the sounds and the feelings of an old house when you live in it long enough. And you're also familiar with the sounds of movement. And that's what I would hear when I would wake up at 2 or 4 in the morning on the dot. I would hear not the sound of like a shoe or a bare foot making contact with the hardwood floor, but I would hear the creaking of the wood as if it was under enough pressure that it were an adult walking on it. So me as a child back then in the mid to late 90s, I didn't weigh as much, so I was familiar with the sound the stairs made when I took them, and I was familiar with the pressure, the creaking sound the stairs made when my parents ascended them. And every time I would wake up in those early wee hours, I would hear the stairs creaking again as if under the weight of an adult foot coming up the stairs. It was always coming up the stairs and stopping at the landing. I don't recall hearing the pressure, let's call it the pressure. I don't recall hearing the pressure stop at the foot of my door, but my door was close enough to the top landing that I felt disconcerted. And I would just freeze and hold my breath and sense. I would just sense that someone was there. And eventually I worked up enough courage, and this happened often enough that I would do basically the same thing every time to try to catch or debunk who or whatever was going on. And so the pressure would go from the first flight of stairs to the first landing, up the second flight into the top landing and stop. And I would crack open my old wooden door just before I knew it would start to creak, just enough for me to peek into the dim of the night. And there was no one there. Anytime I could feel someone there, but there was no one there when I would peek out. And it wasn't my parents. I didn't hear them walking, down the little hallway. It was a small hallway. The only thing I heard from my parents was both of them snoring in their bedroom. Okay. And so they were asleep, and they definitely were not the ones walking up the stairs. I would peek out and see no one there. But I felt someone there, and eventually I worked up enough courage, and I did this often enough that it was the same thing every time. I would peek out the door, see no one there, and then quietly slip out of my bedroom and walk as soft and lightly as I could down to the first landing, down the second flight to the first landing of the stairs. And from there, I could kind of look over into the dining room and maybe off a bit to, I couldn't see into the kitchen, but like the little passage doorway that didn't have a door, it was all dark. It was all dark, and I didn't see or hear anyone there, but I could feel it. The definite impression, like I was getting a sense memory recall. The light was not on in the kitchen, but I could feel the light being on in the kitchen. I could sense memory, smell cigar smoke and cigarette smoke. And I just got every single time this definite impression of men sitting at a table in the kitchen, drinking alcohol, smoking tobacco, and playing cards. It was that exact same impression every single time. I don't know why it came to me, but I just felt it. Like I could remember it. The smells, the sounds, the light, the cards, the sounds. Yeah. So I think that house was haunted. And New Jersey in autumn, pre where we are now with, climate crisis, we would actually get autumn. And my God, my town had some awesome ghost stories. There was a local library that had a really frightening story. Yeah. Well, let's get on with one or two more stories here, and then we'll wrap it up. And I'm going to keep reading because I've got a lot more spooky stories queued up that I'm going to read in the bonus episode. So let's first read this story. From username deleted, okay. My piano started playing itself, only lasted for 20 seconds. I was gone alone, so it scared the shit out of me. I do not own a player piano. It is a normal piano, and the part that makes me mad is it was playing itself way better than I'm able to play it. Top comment, the demon wanted to show you how good his skills were compared to yours. Yeah, next comment, was playing itself way better than I'm able to play it. Bro, damn, the ghost stunted on you. Yeah, that ghost mogging, that demonic entity mogging, that fucking Chad of a piano player. Okay, now, here. We're going to call it with this one. This will be the last one. From Reed Stellar says, not me, but my dad. My dad tells me that when I was a little kid, around 4, I went to him and told him we needed to go visit Chile to see my grandpa, his father, because he was going to die that year. They had a really bad relationship, so him and my mom, didn't even talk about Grandpa at home. A few weeks later, my dad got the news from his sister that Grandpa had passed. My dad also tells me that at that same age, one day, my mom was at the farmer's market close to our house, and I was in the living room with Dad while he watched TV, and I sat on the floor playing. I suddenly turned to him and go, Mom is running from bad people, but it's okay because the store man pulled her inside so she could hide. Whoa, what? Kids are fucking creepy. My dad didn't think much of it until it started to take a little, like a long time for my mom to come back. Mom didn't have a cell phone or anything. This was the 90s in Brazil. So he waited at home with me until my mom finally arrived home hours later and shaken up. There had been a robbery gone wrong at the bank that was right in front of the farmer's market. And the robbers came out shooting, and everyone in the farmer's market started running and panicking because the robbers were running through the farmer's market and shooting. My mom ran, and a store employee pulled her inside his store and before closing the doors. Other people from the farmer's market had taken shelter inside. My dad was freaked out. He always tells this story to say that that's when he started believing in supernatural stuff, because he said, I just stared at him and described what was going on with Mom, and then immediately went back to playing. I have no memory of either of these things. Oh, a door just closed by itself, and that means the door to this episode is closing as well. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please become a patron at patreon.com/ThatThingWithJames. Support the show and get access to more spooky stories. But if not, hopefully I'll catch you next time. Bye.